I just had a full dual-head mini-split air conditioning system installed, and last week I posted a video explaining what I've learned from having it for a couple of months. I got a whole bunch of questions about the process, the units, and lots more, so I figured I'd make a bit of an FAQs video answering your questions. I am sure that I will miss some, so if I do, please do leave them in the comments. Right, let's dive straight in with the most asked question. Who did I use? The shortest possible answer I can give is that I used Checkatrade to solicit 4 quotes. All 4 quotes were about the same price. 3 came for free site visits before quoting, while 1 just asked for some pictures and measurements and then gave me a price then and there. Most of these installers are fairly local. A couple are national, but they all offer a pretty similar range of units and pretty similar prices. I went with the ones that I did, mostly because they seemed like good lads, treated me well, and if I'm being totally honest, they also said that if I paid cash, they would give me the nicer breezeless units, indoor ones for the same price as the basic Medea ones, and that was a good deal for me. Using a service like Checkatrade is genuinely the easiest way to do it, and you should get your answers fairly quickly. That is at least what I would recommend. As for pricing, I had a range of notes on that. Some were flabbergasted that it cost as much as it did, while others, mostly Americans, were just shocked that it wasn't £26,000. I paid £2,600 all in. The units themselves cost somewhere around £1,000 to £1,500, which means the rest is labour cost, and well, 2 guys putting in an 8-hour day of decently hard graft, and if they're anywhere near £80 an hour, that about makes it up. As mentioned in the original video, that is an order of magnitude more expensive than a portable unit. But that's also the going rate for a proper mini-split system that will last you at least a decade and work so much better. I was also asked about the DIY mini-split options from the likes of Electrek, often labelled like EasyFit, which use R290 refrigerant, similar to propane, instead of R32, which is a proper F-gas and requires F-gas certification to work with, whereas R290 doesn't. You can install an R290 AC system, at least before the heat waves. These sorts of like dual head mini-split systems were about £1,000, which sounds like quite the hefty savings. Except after seeing all the work it took to install this system, which is functionally identical to the R290 ones, I'm really glad I just paid the guys to do it instead. Boring a 40mm hole through my walls took them half the day, and they had a nice diamond-tipped hole saw to do it. Plus, you'd still likely need a vacuum pump that's about £300 and might need to top up the system, so this isn't for the faint of heart. You can, of course, and for sure, but it is a lot of work, and that still doesn't cover stuff like the ducting outside, the insulation on the cold side piping, the wiring, or the knowledge to wire them properly. I also got some questions, pointed remarks, jokes, and outright conspiracy theories about needing a license to get AC installed. The funny thing is that I know where this kernel of truth has come from in the extremely overblown stories. One guy posted on Reddit about how his local council was making him remove his AC because he lived in an ex-council house and his neighbour complained and he now needs retroactive planning permission. The truth is actually pretty simple. Since May of last year, 2025, air conditioning heat pumps fall under what is known as permitted development. Basically, you can do what you like without getting planning permission or, well, notifying anyone anywhere. There are a few conditions, namely that the unit must be reversible, i.e. it can cool and heat, not simultaneously just has the option to either heat or cool, and it can't be a nuisance to your neighbours, especially in terms of noise, but that's pretty much it. I didn't have to get permission to install this, and even if I did, there's actually 2 kinds of planning permission, proactive and retroactive. You can apply before installing, or do it after. Well, the latter is technically riskier. It's a common thing to think that something was permitted development, then be informed it's not, and then apply for planning permission after you've already built it or done it. And more often than not, it's granted. See Colin Firth's underground stuff for a great example of that. Also, there is no big bad government agency dedicated to seizing stuff here in the UK. There's no FBI that will come and raid your house. The police couldn't care less, and it's your local council. While it would be a pain to deal with if they were putting up a fuss about it, no one is seizing your air conditioning. That just doesn't happen here. And actually, while I'm on my highest horse, I got a whole bunch of hilariously smug comments from mostly Americans saying, "Welcome to the 20th or 21st century," or "It's so weird you don't have basic necessities like AC. The UK is so backwards." You have to understand that these 40°C plus temperatures we're experiencing, literally Death Valley temperatures, only started in the last 5 years. Britain has been a frozen, rainy isle for centuries, and it's only through us boiling the planet alive has it become hotter than the temperatures we used to need to go on holiday to the south of France or Spain to experience. No shit, we don't have AC. My house was built sometime in the late 1880s and has fireplaces in every room of the house because adding heat was the only concern back then. Now we've trapped so much heat in the planet that we need to get some of the heat out of the house. Our houses were built with central heating in mind. I mean, mine wasn't, but it's also easy enough to retrofit with some very thin pipes through flooring, not central air. It'd be like you being surprised that Alaska doesn't have good AC. It's ignorant and idiotic. Anyway, back to my system. A few people asked for more information on the installation, servicing, and wiring, so let me explain that. The two guys bored or drilled a 40mm hole in each room where an indoor unit is mounted and attached the mounting bracket to the inside wall. They ran the trunking, mounted the outdoor unit, and then wired the indoor units to the outdoor one. That's the important part. The indoor units are powered from the outdoor one. They don't need power in the room that they're in. They run, I think, just a 4-core cable from each indoor unit out to the outdoor one, following the refrigerant lines in the trunking, with 2 wires for power and 2 for communication. The indoor units are what controls the outdoor one. They command the compressor on and control the speed that it runs at, or demand a speed for it to run at. And all the outdoor unit does is just provide the indoor one's power. They don't need anything else other than a bracket mounting to the wall and one decently large hole through the wall. I also simplified the gassing steps in the video, so let me expand on that here too. The lines that they fit are obviously at atmospheric pressure when they install them, which involves soldering some of them together and then flaring the nut ends and screwing the nuts on as well. As the indoor unit's condenser, radiator, all of that is at atmospheric pressure with standard air in it. So they first pull a vacuum to draw all of that air and moisture out. Then they fill the system with nitrogen to check for leaks, leave that for some time to ensure that the pressure doesn't drop. Then they vacuum the nitrogen back out and open the valve on the compressor, which has pre-filled a correct or a useful amount of refrigerant in it. That the amount of gas that is pre-filled in the compressor is, I think, good for 12-meter runs per line, which, at least on my unit, although they will also attach a bottle of the same refrigerant and top it up if needed when they do the initial pressure tests. When it comes to time for the annual service, which is a requirement for the 10-year warranty and is somewhere around, I think, £100 a year, they will clean the filters, check the pressure and top it up if needed, and ensure that the system is running as expected. Lastly, I do want to add some more about portable units, especially because last week the DIY UK subreddit was awash with debates around using the stock single hose or modding your portable unit to be a dual hose style instead. One nutter even used 4 hoses. The idea behind that is pretty simple. The main problem with the portable units is that they have to draw the cold air from the room and pump it outside in order to cool the hot side of the system, which creates negative pressure in the room and means hot air from either outside or just from around your house is drawn in to replace that evacuated air. By wrapping your portable unit's hot side intakes in cardboard and attaching a second hose, you can use the hot outside air to cool the hot side, leaving your cooled inside air alone. That's really clever. It brings a big efficiency bonus and should help the compressor live longer. But that still does leave you with a very noisy and physically very hot box in a single room, drawing more power than my entire dual room system draws. Of course, if a portable unit is all you can get right now, absolutely dual hose that bad boy and reap the benefits. I'm still incredibly glad that I splashed out for the proper kit though. I think that'll do it for now. As I said at the start, if I missed any questions, do leave them in the comments below. If you haven't seen the original video, well, it might be helpful to check that out, so I'll leave that on the end cards. And if you want to see more videos somewhat like this one, generally more tech, but if you have any other AC questions, feel free to let me know and maybe I'll make a follow-up video to this. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification icon. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you all in the next video.